it's so much easier to live the way your body was designed to live. You just think it's hard because you've never done it. But once you do it, you realize, wow, this really is better. It feels better. It is actually cheaper in the long run. I can do this.
Hello, critical thinkers. Welcome to this new episode of Healthy and Awake podcast. Here we question the conventional, explore the unconventional, and seek truth in health and wellness. I'm your host, Mike Vera, and today we are with Dorinda Smith, aka Dori Smith, who is a research immunotoxicologist with a master's in immunology and environmental toxicology from Virginia Tech. She spent over a decade in academic research, including her work at Duke University Medical Center and a PhD fellowship at the NIH. After being diagnosed with multiple autoimmune diseases, including systemic sclerosis and fibromyalgia, she spent 14 years disabled. But through functional medicine and lifestyle changes, she reversed 95% of her conditions and now leads True Wellness Today and the Cellular Healing and Longevity Center. I think today this episode will be interesting and different because, as you know, I'm a board certified health and wellness coach. I work with people who often have autoimmune conditions, chronic conditions, inflammatory conditions. But I don't think on the show I've gotten to talk to someone who kind of lives in both sides, where they're, dealing with the condition, but also have the scientific background. So you have the scientist and the patient. So well, I'm glad you're doing well now.
Yeah.
What's the sequence of events there? Were you like doing your scientific practices and then you started to get sick, or was it the
Yeah.
other way around?
No. I had, well, if you look back, you can see that I had the beginning of chronic inflammation way back when I was 12 years old. And you can see the way my mother took care of our gut health way back then. Of course, we didn't know, right? Nobody knew anything about the gut microbiome back then. My mother thought that it was the right thing to do to throw an antibiotic at us kids every time we had a sniffle. And she didn't know, right? She didn't know what she was doing. So you can really look back and you can see how the chronic inflammation built up from just hormonal issues to really poor gut health to everything that I was raised on eating to all the stress and the traumas, on and on and on. And then finally, in my 40s, it culminated in the autoimmune diseases. So yeah.
So you mentioned functional medicine. What did functional medicine offer you that conventional medicine did not?
Well, conventional medicine, as you know, basically tells an autoimmune disease person, well, now you finally got your diagnosis. Good for you. Now you're screwed. You're basically broken. We don't know why you're sick. We don't know how to cure it. There is nothing we can do for you except we can help you with multiple different symptoms, with multiple different big pharma medications, maybe some surgeries if things get really bad. But really, that's all we can do. And, I remember one of my rheumatologists, and I know that like a lot of your audience will relate to this. If you go in there and you sit down, you say, look, I know you've already got me on 10 different pills, but it's not enough. Like, I'm in so much freaking pain, I can't sleep at night. I'm laying there in a fetal position, and you've already given me all this medication. There has to be something else you can do. I had this guy look at me and just say, look, you're just going to have to get used to this because there isn't anything else we can do. Just like that. Just like that. Like no bedside manner, no compassion, no nothing. And I thought, you jerk. I just got up and walked out of his office. I was like, great. But this is what you deal with when you have an autoimmune disease. Doctors don't know what to do, but functional medicine does. So, and now, of course, we've kind of changed the name of functional medicine more into precision medicine or precision healthcare, because that's basically what it is. You're really looking at the underlying root causes of the chronic inflammation, because that's where all disease comes from, whether it's autoimmunity, whether it's heart disease, whether it's diabetes or mental health problems, really anything, kidney disease, liver disease, it all starts with that chronic inflammation. And there are scientifically known and proven root causes for the inflammation. And we've known this for maybe 20 or 30 years. But hey, that never got into medical schools, right? They're just starting to teach about the gut microbiome in medical schools. I mean, they're late. They are way late. And in the meantime, people are dying when we know the root causes now.
So there, I would imagine there's a lot, and of course, from working with people, I know that there's a lot of different causes: the food, the stress, the sleep. Every little detail can play an effect in inflammation. But I figure what's most relevant today, given your background in immunotoxicology, are maybe some of the toxic chemical exposure type things. And it does seem like one of those things where it's everywhere. It's in the food, it's in the water, it's in the air, it's in our clothes, and I can go on and on. So I guess, can you just give us a quick overview? Because we will dive deeper into it, but can you give us an overview of sources of toxic exposure and how it fits into this picture of chronic illness?
Yeah. And if you let me, I'll go back a little bit further, because I think it'll make more sense to people if we give them the big picture overview of why disease happens in the first place. And I just made it really, really easy for people, because we know that it starts with a person's basic genetics, right? Which can be fixed, by the way. You're not just stuck with the way your genes are expressing. So it's your genetics plus it's whatever your cells are missing. So we call those the cellular deficiencies, right? So you got your problems with your genes over here, and then you've got some cellular deficiencies. And then you add some stress into the mix. All of that creates a lot of stress. But the biggest one and the last piece of that equation that causes chronic illness is the toxic overload. And of course, we know that we live in a big toxic soup, from our food to, I mean, you can't walk through a grocery store. You can barely find things that you actually should be eating in a normal American or any westernized grocery store. Most of it is stuff that we should not be ingesting. We shouldn't even be touching it, really, right? But yet this is our food system. And that's another reason. I know I'm going off on a little bit of a rabbit trail here, but I'll do that. That's another reason why people, they'll come to me all the time. They'll say, but I did change my diet, but I am eating organic, but I am being really good. I don't eat sugar. I don't eat all that junk, right? And I'll say, yeah, but you forgot about fixing that genetic problem. And you forgot about fixing that cellular deficiencies problem. And hey, guess what? You forgot the very biggest piece of the puzzle, which is the immunotoxicology part, which is all of these toxins that are affecting your immune system and your gut microbiome. And if you forget those things, sure, the food can fix some of that, right? The food can help you with some of the cellular deficiencies. It can help your genes to express a little better. It can help to detox out some of the toxins. But if you don't get real specific with it and you're really sick, then you're going to have to dive deeper and do some testing and see where those blockages are. But that's, once you find those blockages, that's how you get people amazingly healthy, and you do things that a doctor will tell you is impossible. They'll say, no, you can never reverse heart disease. You can never reverse autoimmune disease. You can never reverse diabetes. Yeah, it's really a bunch of bull. You really can do that.
Well, the language that you're using, detox and toxins, a lot of people do push back on this language. And I think, it's often been used to sell supplements like this is the answer, this will detox, and this is the cure to all your problems. But you have the background in immunotoxicology, and you're using this language, which makes me think, maybe these words that people dismiss actually have some legitimacy to them.
Well,
So can you talk about that a little bit?
yeah, absolutely. If you stopped detoxing today, guess what? Like most of your organs are detox organs. So, I mean, they're teaching you this way back in the 1990s. As an immunotoxicologist, that's what I learned about. I learned about the toxins that affect your immune system and why they kill you, why they're so dangerous, right? And what they do to your immune system and how your body, the mechanisms of action on the biological cellular level, those mechanisms of actions that remove toxins. And that's what detox is, right? It's just become like a fad word. But the truth is that right now, your skin, your lungs, your liver, your kidneys, and your brain, they are all detoxing right now as we speak. And if they stopped detoxing for even a few minutes, you'd die real quick. I mean, you'd just fall over, you'd be done. Okay. Your cells are continually removing bad things that are not supposed to be there, spent metabolites, anything that you are exposed to that your immune system doesn't like, right? 24/7, every single day of your life, you are detoxing. The problem is that when people have particular genetic dysfunctions, and then they've not eaten right their whole life or, right, so their cells don't have everything they need to do their job, and then they get overloaded with a lot more toxins, it starts building up, building up, building up. And that's when people get heart disease and diabetes and autoimmune disease and mental health issues and ADHD in kids, and just keep, put your favorite disease, fill in the blank, right? That's really
Yeah.
what's happening.
I think a lot of people are starting to catch on to this. And,
Yeah.
now, especially with the Maha movement, RFK Jr., people like yourself talking
Thank
about these
God.
things, bring awareness.
Right.
At the
Thank
same
God.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And people not only are waking up, but they're demanding changes. You're starting to see that with artificial colors, which is maybe another topic. But some people do get overwhelmed by all this. I mean, you
Sure.
mentioned the food, you look at the water, you look at the
Mhm.
clothes, coffee. I can go off about
The
coffee for 10
mold and the
minutes.
coffee. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's probably to me, I don't know about you, but that's at the top of the list for me of things to avoid, like Starbucks in particular, coffee places like that. But what do you say to the people who are overwhelmed? They hear the sorts of things we're talking about now, and they have this mentality of, yeah, everything's poison. That's the world we live in. So, what can you do? And
Ugh.
then they don't make any attempt to avoid toxic exposure. So, if you could talk to those people directly, what would you say?
Well, first of all, I would just love to say you're loved. And yes, you can do this. You absolutely can do this. And part of the reason why you feel overwhelmed is because your biochemistry has messed up your brain chemicals. And it makes it so easy to be overwhelmed when you're in pain all the time and you're inflamed. It's not just your body that's inflamed and that hurts. Whenever you have a symptom in your body, you've also got problems in your brain. And that's why you get the brain fog and the mood swings and that's why it's so easy to be overwhelmed. So first of all, it's not your fault to feel overwhelmed. Okay? And with a little good guidance and a lot of love, you can do this. You just take baby steps and you learn how, right? And you'll find that after you start really taking those steps and doing it, all those little baby steps, they start adding up little by little by little by little until pretty soon you're 3 months down the road and you're actually starting to feel a little bit better. And your brain fog is clearing up a little bit. And that's when your motivation kicks in. That's when you start really getting excited because you realize, holy crap, I've been living under a lie for all this time. I really did have control. I really could have done something about this. I wasted all these years being sick for nothing. Then you're going to get mad. And then you're going to kick it into high gear and you're going to realize, oh my gosh, right? And what I see in clients all the time is there's this whole, I mean, the physical thing is awesome. When you really start removing symptoms that you've had for years, that's really amazing. And it really does feel like a miracle. It honestly does. But there's something way bigger that's happening. And it's the emotional and the spiritual transformation that people get. Because they've been under this victim mentality, thinking that they're screwed and there's nothing they can do for so long. And they've become their illness. They identify, well, I'm a scleroderma person, or I just saw something I get all these things on Facebook all the time, and somebody sent me this picture from, it was a lupus group, and all these women were all excited to be there identifying with their lupus because they get love and support that way. Well, you know what? There's a better way to get love and support. Take the bull by the horns and fix it and reverse it. So you don't have to put a picture up on Facebook identifying as a sick person anymore.
Yeah, the identity side of things is huge because people really do. They make it part of their being. And I see this all the time. And just that mindset shift. And here's maybe a weird, but I think powerful example to that. You see people make drastic changes all the time. Maybe you see someone and then 3 months later, they lost a bunch of weight and you find out maybe they're expecting there's going to be a baby, or maybe unfortunately there was a death in the family, or maybe they're getting married. These major life changes cause us to really reflect and ask ourselves these powerful questions that can often change our identity. Oh, I'm going to have a baby. I'm a dad now. Right? Who do I want to be as a dad? Like now I have to adjust my behaviors and the decisions that I make. And so that identity, those same people who can have that mindset shift of I'm a dad now and now I need to do X, Y, and Z, they're not sitting down like tracking calories. Oh, I need to track calories and I need to have a structured plan to make sure that that all works. But my point here is that simple mindset shift can override the calorie tracking and the planning and all those things. It is so powerful.
And it feels amazing when you get, I mean, that was really the best part of my entire healing. And it took me almost 2 years to get like where I knew I was no longer that sick woman anymore. And I just knew it. I knew it. I'm different. I'm changed. I'm not there anymore. The spiritual blessing from that, who I became after that. I mean, light years difference. Light years difference just in just everything. Like it's almost hard to describe, but just everything, just from not only my confidence in who I am as a woman and as a human being, like what can I do? Wow, if I can do that, what else can I do? Like how am I limiting myself? Right? I've got this one life to live. What am I doing? And what was I created for? Right? And of course, that's part of my story. That's when God really just kind of zapped me and showed me that, hey, look, you were sick for all this time for a reason. You know, you're supposed to blossom into this new person that you've become so that you can help other people now. And that's much better than just being an arrogant scientist sitting in a lab somewhere, I think. Right? So, and then even since then, all the spiritual growth and all the emotional growth that has occurred from all the compassion when you're helping other people to change their lives, and then you're watching their transformation stories. Man, I'm telling you, there's nothing better in the world, you know.
I would also, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
It's okay. You know, I'll talk for 27 years on this. Okay.
Sure. Well, I also think what you said is a good example of how things can compound positively in the other direction. So if we're talking about toxic exposure, one thing that I think a lot of people don't think of, especially those people I mentioned earlier, well, everything's poison, who cares? You know, everything's going to kill me. What is not considered is the cumulative and even synergistic effects. So it's accumulating over time and how they might be working together. And I think going along with what you just said, if we can start to move in the other direction, we also don't often think about the cumulative and compounding effects of the good
Good
decisions that we
things.
make. So you had this
Yeah.
spiritual awakening, or you had this identity grounding moment. And so when you had that and you started to make these positive changes, it sounds like they kind of just kept building and building
Yeah.
instead of building like a toxic load, let's say.
Right. And like, okay, like think of this. Like right now, I am a 62-year-old woman. My kids are grown. I can travel to El Salvador by myself, hang out. Basically, it's a giant detox machine down here. You're just constantly sweating. It's just 100% humidity, and there's beautiful big plants everywhere. You can smell the difference in the air down here. It's just a healthier place to be, right? And that's why I came down, by the way, right? But if you would have told me, like, 10 years ago, maybe when I was still working on getting better, that I would be that woman that could just pick up and just go wherever I want in the world just to hang out on a beautiful beach and detox for a while, right? If you'd have told me I could have done that, I'd have said, no way. I'd have been scared to death. I would have not been that woman, you know? Look at me now, right?
Well, I would
And
think most of the people listening probably can't pick up and go to El Salvador like you can, and they might be concerned about, all these sources of toxic exposure. So what could people are those mysterious, questionable supplements that I saw on a Facebook ad the answer, or
yeah.
is there something more reasonable that maybe I can do?
Yeah. Well, if you do it right with the right protocol and you have people who are leading you, right? Then yes, supplements are amazing because I mean, yes, there is corruption in the supplement world just like there's corruption in everything. I agree they should not be that expensive. I agree they should not be marketed the way they are because they're used wrong. Like 9 times out of 10, people who will come to me and say, "But I've done a detox." I'm like, "Yeah, what did you do?" "Oh, I did this one product, or I did this, or I did that." And I'm like, "And you were told that within 30 days, if you spend $400 on this product, that you're going to magically have your gut microbiome be completely well again. You're going to completely reset everything. You're going to get rid of all your parasites. You're going to get rid of all of those overgrowths, and your brain's going to get better, and you're going to lose 10 pounds, right?" And they're like, "Right, but it didn't work." And I'm like, "Well, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If it took you 10, 20, 30 years to build up that level of chronic inflammation to where now you've got multiple symptoms or, God forbid, multiple diagnoses, do you really think you're going to be able to get rid of that with a $400 1-month product?
And
No.
is addition even really the answer too? Like before you even look at what you can subtract from your routine, is addition,
Oh,
adding a supplement really the answer here?
that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem, is because we're trained in our modern society to think that if we have a symptom, we go to the doctor and the doctor gives us a pill and voila. The problem is that has never worked. It doesn't work now. It's only made us worse, right? But like there are supplements that you should be using. Like let me give you a classic example, but using correctly. Okay, so here's a classic example I always use because it's super easy for people to understand. So if I sit down with a person and I say, "Okay, let's run your genetics first, because your genetics are your foundation to your health. If your genetics are screwed up and you don't know it, and you're not doing what you need to do to fix your genetics, then okay, you're going to always be under the gun. You're going to always have that little less of a problem. I mean, that little, right? That little more of a problem." And so here's what we typically find in like a chronic illness, autoimmune disease type of patient. We'll see various different genetic problems pertaining to their usage of vitamin D, which is not really a vitamin, it's a hormone. And we now know that vitamin D is amazing, that your gut health will be off if you don't have good vitamin D. If your brain health will be off, your cellular functioning will be off. Like basically everything will be off if your vitamin D is too low. Well, if your vitamin D is like between 30 and 40, your doctor will say, oh, you're perfectly fine. There's no problem here. Well, according to the latest science, people need an average of 4,000 units per day. That's average if you're healthy, if you don't have genetic problems. Well, what's the average in a supplement? Like 600? Okay, that's a really vast difference, right? Then you look at a person who has a genetic issue with vitamin D, right? And you test these people for their vitamin D, and they're like 9, 15, they're in the 20s. They feel like crap every single day. You know that it's one of the fastest ways to get people feeling better is with a simple vitamin D3 K2 supplement and add some minerals in there. Make sure they're eating right. Don't eat sugar all day when you're trying to do this because, okay. But just bringing that vitamin D up and correcting that genetic expression problem is huge because that person who has a genetic problem with vitamin D is probably never going to have enough vitamin D. I don't care if they go live at the equator and stand in the sun all day. They're probably never going to have enough vitamin D.
What makes you say that?
Because their genetics.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right? And so they don't utilize and absorb vitamin D as well as maybe a person who doesn't have that genetic problem. But guess what? In almost every person, it's very rare to not see that genetic problem in a person who has an autoimmune disease or a person who has, severe chronic symptoms that hasn't been diagnosed yet. It's very rare not to see that vitamin D gene or a series of vitamin D genes that are basically mutated. They don't work right. And so what we have to do as a precision scientist, what I have to do is I have to identify that for the person. It's a simple test. It's not hard. It's not expensive. I mean, your iPhone is way more expensive than this, and it doesn't change your life. Okay. So you see the problem. That's where a supplement comes in handy because you can't get enough vitamin D, right? So you take some good mineral supplements, you take your vitamin DK3, right? Within a few months, this person all of a sudden has better brain engine, better brain cognition, better energy, right? The aches and pains are starting to go away. And they're like, oh, you're a miracle worker. No, I identified a very specific genetic problem that you can easily fix for about $10 a month.
Yeah, or if somebody doesn't have a genetic issue, for free they could go outside and avoid the supplement altogether. And I will say, because this is something we've discussed on the show in the past, if you're going outside and you're wearing sunglasses, that's going to affect your vitamin D levels. You're
Sure
basically
does.
blocking the body's ability to even register that the sun is out in the first place, which is going to impact your ability to get tan and to make vitamin D. So I'd say, get, if you're able to, because a lot of my clients are in Philly and it's rainy. There's that show, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's always raining in Philadelphia, actually. And so they never really get the chance, or they don't frequently get the chance to get as much sunlight as they would like. And I think for many of them, the supplement might be the answer. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. But I also think if you can, get some sunlight. Stop putting the sunglasses on.
Well, and at least get outside, do a good circadian rhythm exercise every single morning. People think that the whole circadian rhythm thing and grounding and getting their sunlight in the morning, getting their exercise in the morning, people just don't understand that this is Nobel Prize winning science. I mean, they've just never been taught these things. And of course, their doctor doesn't tell them. I don't even know if the doctors know, right?
And
so
if
it's
they
really
hear it, they
simple.
dismiss it. They roll their eyes and they dismiss it.
Oh, they're like, yeah. Oh, grounding. Oh, what's that? Oh, getting outside in the morning. Oh, what's that? Oh, it doesn't matter if I exercise at night. It's the only time that I have time. I mean, no, people, no. Your body functions a certain way. Your hormones function a certain way. You were created to be up in the sunlight with your feet on the ground, right? And the physics behind it is phenomenal. Do you know, have you ever interviewed Jack Cruz?
A few times. Yeah, he's been on the show
down
twice.
Here in El Salvador.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are neighbors right now.
I guess we are. Yeah, I guess there's a Bitcoin meeting at Bitcoin Beach, El Zonte on Sunday.
Oh,
And
so Cruz is probably speaking there for sure, I'd guess.
well, I guess he shows up there all the time. So
Yeah.
so I'm gonna go meet him, but I've been following him for years.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, but yeah, and the only reason, I'm not rich either. The only reason why I came to El Salvador, it was because it was cheaper to come down here than to get another house when my own house was overloaded with mold.
Yep.
Right. So getting off on that mold tangent, that's why I'm here right now, is because I've been living in mold for the last couple of months, and getting a little granny flat next to my office was double than getting a flight down here and staying on the beach down here.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
There's a health revolution happening in El Salvador right now, actually,
Sure
in big part thanks to Dr. Jack Cruz.
Yeah.
But you mentioned mold there, and it actually made me think of a topic we touched on a little bit earlier, and that is coffee. Now, the question I actually want to ask you is, what do you think the biggest offender is from sources of toxic exposure? But just to set the scene, I just wanted to really rant a little bit on coffee, because I know people love their coffee. I'm not anti-coffee. I drink coffee occasionally myself. But when you think of toxic exposure, to me, coffee is the worst of the worst, because first of all, it's the coffee beans, which might have mycotoxins in there. Then it's made with water, and water is often contaminated, depending on what water you're using, microplastics, pharmaceuticals, potentially other things as well. Then it goes into a cup that's lined with some sort of plastic endocrine disrupting liner. And it's probably made through a machine that has a lot of plastic parts that are getting heated up, accelerating the transfer of plastic.
Yep.
God forbid it's in a K cup, which is just entirely plastic, getting heated through there. And maybe even the coffee packaging itself, where the coffee beans come in, if there's a lining, it has more stuff. That might be everything. Maybe not. I might have missed some details, but
Pretty good.
what do you think might be more toxic than coffee?
Oh my gosh. Well, mercury. But going down there's a lot of things that cause people to be sick, right? But coffee is a big one. And look at the big spiritual side of this, right? First, you've got millions and millions and millions of people who are eating really bad food every day that are overloaded with glyphosate, pesticides, herbicides, all kinds of different chemicals that were created on purpose just to get you addicted to this really unhealthy food that's not really food to begin with. It's just something that tastes really good. But it's not food. It's actually making you sick. It's not giving your cells. Food is supposed to nourish you. It's supposed to make you happy and healthy. It's a gift, right? But real food is a gift, right? But then you've got this whole society of people who are so sick, and they're so brain fogged, and they're so exhausted from the moment they get up in the morning. They don't have the energy. So the first thing they have to do is get some caffeine in their system. And now, of course, you've got Starbucks. Here comes Starbucks, right? One of the most toxic products in the world, from the way they get their beans. Now, there is a healthy way to do coffee, right?
And probably, I would guess the French press is the healthiest way to go.
Absolutely. That's the way I do mine.
Yeah.
Right? A French press, and you buy really good. Now, it's more expensive, but look, what's way more expensive is being sick for your entire life and wasting your life. Okay? So if you want to have coffee, you buy a good coffee that's tested for mold. Then you do it in a French press, and you don't add all the junk, and you put it in a good cup, and you have good filtered water, right? And then coffee is loaded with antioxidants. Very good for you, right? Yeah. But you don't need to have all these cups of coffee all day long, or a cup of coffee at 3:00 in the afternoon, which then just destroys your circadian rhythm, makes it so you don't sleep well at night, right? Raises your cortisol level at night, right? And then you just start the whole process all over again. And when you do that, just like you were talking about those little baby steps that add up, that make your body worse and worse and worse as time goes on, that's what you're doing when you're in that habit. And that habit can be changed. So I have people who come to me all the time, and the first words out of their mouth are, but I can't because of this, because I'm too tired. I have to have my coffee in the afternoon. If I don't drive through Starbucks in the afternoon, I won't be able to work. Dori, you don't understand, right? I mean, I've heard that about 100,000 times, right? And I can just stop and go, yeah, I do understand. I was there. I was the person who those habits made it so I couldn't work at all. So do you want to be there? Or do you want to be in a place where you can actually start turning this around? Because I'm telling you the truth, there is a way.
Mm-hmm.
And it really isn't as hard as you think it is. It's just that you don't know what you don't know. Right. And if you don't know something, then you can't see how to take that trip from point A to point B because you just don't know the path. You don't know the road. You don't have the knowledge. But once someone comes along and they give you the knowledge, and then they give you the love to go with that knowledge because they've been on that road 100 times before, 1,000 times before. They know the road. They know that it works, right? That's when you start seeing these amazing transformations in people. That
I think it goes to identity too, because I'm a coffee drinker. That's who I am. Is I'm the guy that drinks coffee. I think that's a big part of it too.
change the way you do your coffee then. Just
Right.
won't do Starbucks for crying out loud.
Yep. And that is a topic we've covered on previous episodes as well. Ways to sort of reduce coffee. I guess the bullet point is just get a scale, weigh. This is what I do. I weigh coffee beans, which maybe sounds, a little meticulous, but I know if I want to regulate my energy, I need the caffeine. It'll help me with work, but I don't want to go overboard. I'll weigh out 1 gram of coffee beans, which is like 4 coffee beans, and still gives me that kick. This next one's a little different because I know most of the toxic exposure we've talked about has kind of been focused around food, but I do wonder about tattoos. Any thoughts on tattoos?
Oh my goodness. It is. I am the mom who has a daughter who loves tattoos. And even back in the day, okay, I was telling her, this is before I knew anything about functional medicine. Okay. This is long before. I'm telling her, are you crazy? You are taking a poison and you are sticking it on a needle and putting it under your skin so your immune system just freaks out over that. Your immune system says, what the heck is this? This does not belong here. This is an actual poison that destroys your cells. And yet people just do it. It all goes back to that. You don't know what you don't know,
Yeah.
And if people only knew what they were doing every time they get a tattoo, they'd run out the door, but they don't know.
It's funny. I see people online who are celebrating the removal of the artificial dyes from the foods, and hey, that's great. And then I'll flip through their pictures, and they're getting a new tattoo, and just the irony is hilarious.
They don't know.
Yeah.
Well, no, they just don't know. And, so, and that takes me back to a really important point too, because I've had clients say, okay, well, what do I do? I'm 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 years old. And I've lived my life in a way of not knowing all these years. And I have caused a lot of damage. And they think, oh, there's no hope. Right? There is hope. Number one, because your body is regenerating cells at a rate of over 300 million cells per minute, right? And your body wants to regenerate. Your body wants to produce new cells all the time, all the time, all the time. And if you just put your body into a better environmental space where your genes are working better, you're giving your cells what they need, you're lowering your toxins, you're learning how to get a lot of those toxic substances out of your life. And if you need to, if you're that bad, and a lot of our autoimmune people are, then do some specific protocols with a professional. Please don't try to do this on your own. You will just make yourself worse, right? Getting those toxins, using the right protocols to get them out of your body, right? It can be done. And then you can have a much different body. And, people think, well, I can't. But yes, you can. You really can. And when you're on the other side, you will look back and you will think, what a doofus I was for not doing this sooner. Right? Like, why did I put it off? Well, because I just wanted to eat cheesecake whenever I wanted to, right? I mean, I actually said that when I was sick. I said it to a friend who said to me, Dori, if you stopped eating sugar, you might feel a little better. This was long before I knew anything about functional medicine or anything. And I actually got really angry at her. And I said, hey, you don't know what it's like to be me and to be sick every single day of my life. And if the only vice I have in life is some sugar, get off my back. Right. And I got really angry about it. And now, I since apologized to her because I look back now and I think, wow, oh my gosh, you mean I had a choice? I could feel the way I do now, or I could eat whatever I want and have tons of sugar and tons of junk and bad seed oils and just everything from the grocery store. I would much rather eat the way I eat now, which is it's actually cheaper in the long run, right? Because it's healthy meats. I get full fat. I don't have to limit. I don't have to watch my calories. I don't have to. It's so much easier to live the way your body was designed to live. You just think it's hard because you've never done it. But once you do it, you realize, wow, this really is better. It feels better. It is actually cheaper in the long run. I can do this. It's easier to make a meal. I don't have to buy all this junk at the grocery store. I can just buy simple things or, maybe go to a farmer's market and maybe be in community with these people who are creating the beef and the chicken for me and like it used to be a couple of
Yeah.
100 years ago, and have that community and know where your food is coming from. And, then you make more friends. And I mean, it's just, I would call it a much higher quality of life, than just being
Yeah.
like everybody else and walking like a sheep through the grocery store and buying your Oreos,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's powerful. And I think that's a perfect place to end. So Dori, where could people find out more about you and your work?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's truewellnesstoday.net. And yeah, it's super easy to find us. I'm starting to grow a YouTube channel. I'm learning how to do it. I've never really had to. And, but now they say you have to. So I'm learning. So if my videos are a little cringe right now, you guys can just laugh along with me. It's okay. I'll still give you a lot of good information, even if my videos look funny.
Well, folks, check the links in the show notes. I've seen some of the videos. They're not too cringe. they're not cringe. But other than that, stay healthy, stay awake.